Welcome, everybody, to our weekly Facebook Live here at ImmPact Litigation. I'm Charles Kuck. I got my wonderful partners here, Greg Siskind and Jeff Joseph, who's looking particularly handsome today. Greg and Jeff, the snow is all melted by you, Greg. Jeff, do you still have snow on the ground in Colorado?
We have a little bit. It's warming up, though. I can feel the spring.
I just got off my bike. That's usually what I'm doing right before this thing.
It's unfortunately it's raining here today. It was 80 yesterday here in Atlanta, so it's like, ooh, I get to plant my spring stuff. It's awesome. Right, so we had a little action today. Jeff, I want to start with you on the Milligan case in a rather odd way, not in adding plaintiffs, because that's still with the judge, but what happened today?
Well, the first thing that happened is that we have a status report that is due to the court on the 4th. And so we've actually been crunching the numbers and looking at things and sent it to the U.S. attorney. And, what I can say today is I can actually give you an actual status report of how many plaintiffs and in round one, round two, and what's happened. So let me do that. Round one plaintiffs, we had 189 round one plaintiff couples. 7 couples requested to be dismissed from the lawsuit or have withdrawn their I-129F petitions for various reasons. And so 7 couples voluntarily withdrew. 168 couples have attended a consular interview or have an interview scheduled within the next 6 weeks. And many of those have been issued a visa and subsequently entered the U.S. There are 9 remaining plaintiff couples who have reported no movement. And of those, from proclamation countries, we have 1 in Naples that has a consular interview scheduled for August 2021 and 1 in Rio. And then from non-proclamation countries, we have 1 in Turkey, 2 in Casablanca, 1 in Kabul, 2 in Montreal, and 1 left in Manila. From round 2 plaintiffs, we had 282 round 2 plaintiff couples. 2 couples have requested to be dismissed from the lawsuit. 164 have attended a consular interview or have an interview scheduled in the near future. Of the 93 scheduled interviews that have yet to occur, 66 are scheduled within the next 6 weeks. 19 are scheduled within the next 6 to 8 weeks. 8 are scheduled for dates more than 2 months in the future. And 6 of these 8 cases are processing out of Moscow. There are 116 remaining plaintiffs from round 2 who have reported that their cases are still at the NVC or that posts have not taken any action to schedule an interview. Of those proclamation countries, there's 5 in Amsterdam, 5 in Athens, 1 in Dublin, 11 in Frankfurt, 13 in Guangzhou, 23 in London, 3 in Madrid, 1 in Paris, 4 in Rio, 4 in Stockholm, 1 in Vilnius, and 1 in Warsaw. And then for non-proclamation countries, we have 1 in Aker, 1 in Ankara, 1 in Bangkok, 1 in Bogota, 1 in Casablanca, 3 in Ciudad Juarez, 1 in Dhaka, 1 in Kiev, 23 in Manila, 1 in Montreal, 1 in Mumbai, 1 in Nairobi, 1 in New Delhi, 1 in Port-au-Prince, 1 in Pristina, 1 in Santo Domingo, 1 in Tbilisi, and 2 in Yerevan. Of particular note, there are 23 round 2 plaintiffs processing in Manila and the embassy has not scheduled a single interview for any round 2 plaintiffs. And then round 3, we notified the court.
Great, I'll stop you there. But the round 1 plaintiffs all got their visas in Manila.
They did, yes. So anyways, that's the good news is we actually have solid numbers that we are presenting to the court that is due on the 4th. And we just sent those over to the U.S. attorney as well. The other big news on Milligan is that the government, if you recall, did file a preservative appeal. They have now formalized that appeal. They can always withdraw it later, but they did in fact file other documents indicating that they're proceeding with the appeal. We also filed our entries of appearance on the appeal, and that's the appeal to the circuit court, by the way. We filed our entries of appearance and a certificate of parties as well. It does not look at this point like they're seeking a stay of the injunction. I would be very surprised if they sought a stay of the injunction, which they can do now that they filed an appeal, but that is yet to be seen. So that's it for Milligan.
All right, so that's good news. And we don't have any word on round 3 plaintiffs. We do have a meeting with the judge on Thursday. Is that right, Jeff?
No, I don't. We don't actually have a hearing, just a status report too.
All right. So we will. The problem is we can't call the judge and say, "Dude, what's going on, man?" You just can't do that in federal court or really any court as lawyers.
We also are going to be seeking to add South Africa.
Yes, that's in the petition papers, right? Is that what?
Right. In the motion that we just filed, the status report, we did indicate that we will be seeking leave to add South Africa, and that the government agrees with that position.
We take no position with that. So
yeah.
So that's
actually the government agrees with us on that one. They agree that South Africa would be included.
Cool. All right. So that's that. The next thing is we had a status conference today with Judge Mehta, who was clearly pushing for settlement. Can't you guys settle this? Can't you guys get this off my docket kind of thing? And what became clear is that, Gomez Aker is a bigger case than just DV 2020. Not from our perspective, because Aker was just DV 2020. All of our plaintiffs they all were interviewed. Almost all got visas. They're all entering the country right now. And I know that some people had issues of some airline in the Congo just now refused a DV person to board because they don't know anything. Apparently they can't read the internet. And see the CBP says, let them on an airplane. Doesn't matter that their visa's expired. We will let them into the country. So for the DV 2020 people, two things are clear. One, you can get on an airplane. As long as your visa was issued in September of 2020, you can just get on an airplane. There's now CBP guidance, which I have on my Twitter page, that says you can just get on a plane. If your visa, doesn't matter if your visa is valid when you get there or when you board the plane, they're still going to let you in. You're good. And also to be clear, under the judge, he confirmed today, under his ruling, the visas are extended for 6 months from the day the ban was lifted, which was February 23rd, 22nd. So anytime 6 months after that, you can come in the country. Now, Greg, I have to ask you, should you wait to come in the country until 5 months and 29 days from the order? No. And don't be complaining to Greg and I that you couldn't get in because the plane got changed at the last minute and now 6 months have passed. Get your buns here. The moment you come in, I had one of our clients, Greg, flagpoled on Sunday. We call flagpole. He came in.
You can do it.
Went through embassy, went through the friendly guys at the airport in the black uniforms and the guns. Passed in, get a stamp. You're a green card holder. Went to the departure lounge and flew back home. Perfectly acceptable to do that.
Yeah. No, it's not a bad idea. I mean, if it's just to get it out of the way, you don't want to be gone for too long once you do that. But it's a good little insurance policy to just get it out of the way.
So, but do not be gone longer than 180 days. Okay, please, ever. All right, just you can go do that. So that was that. Aker is still going on as it pertains to non-immigrants. Really, the 1,152, that's not our case. That's the Gomez case. So any questions about 152 on NIVs, IVs, you should call the Gomez people. Call Jesse Bless.
That would be one if they were going to settle. They should settle on just on that. I mean, it's really kind of right. The more the time goes by since the ban on the immigrant visa ban, the more I think it was because of the litigation that the ban was lifted, because they haven't lifted the non-immigrant ban, and they haven't really been under the gun to do it like they have been because of the two cases, our Anunciato and the Aker case. And that's I have a feeling that they're just going to run the clock on the non-immigrant ban or extend it. I mean, I'm not convinced yet that that's going anywhere.
Well, I actually read something from the CDC director today that why should we open the borders and let people in if we're getting COVID under control? As if there's any evidence recently that negative COVID testing before you leave doesn't work. Yeah. Kind of crazy, especially when they're letting folks in at the southern border. Just here you go, and they do a quick COVID test, and you're good, and off you go. All you got to do is require the COVID test. Get on an airplane, you're fine. All right. Crazy stuff. Better yet, why don't we just vaccinate people when they say, how about that? We can vaccinate people. There was a fascinating, by the way, question that comes out of this. And that's this issue that the ban's gone, but why are you not issuing visas to people? And what's clear is that the Department of State is taking the position that all bans prohibit visa issuance. So if you were a double banned person, so you were in England and you were banned by the worldwide proclamation on family-based parents or immediate relative fives, but the UK ban still exists, we're not going to give you a visa. I have to tell you guys, Michelle Hackman, who is a really wonderful reporter with the Wall Street Journal, was actually able to ask a question during a press conference today with the Consular Affairs Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary for Visa Services, Julie Stuft. So apparently there is an acting there. And this is the question that Michelle Hackman asked, and it's brilliant. I'm just wondering if you can address that you will continue to not process immigrant visas for people subject to COVID/Schengen bans. I'm wondering if you can address why, because those bans are structured not as a sort of bans on nationals of countries, but of if they've been present there in the previous 14 days. And I know some folks with non-immigrant visas that are not subject to other bans were able to go to places like Turkey or Mexico for 2 weeks before entering the U.S. lawfully. And here is Mrs. Stuff's answer. And as soon as I say this, you're going to go, what? There certainly is the opportunity, because you're right. Those are based on presence, not citizenship. So if there's capacities in other posts, the situation that you lay out is possible. We definitely advise people to check with other embassies and consulates to find out if there is capacity in those places. And of course, in both the NIV and the IV context, they would have to get into the line that exists at that post for processing, but yet it's possible. What the?
Yeah, it's a load of crap.
I mean, do the consulates know that they're cheat? That this is the person in charge of the consulates, right? She is the head of consular services, and what she just said is not true, at least on the ground.
And she still doesn't they still don't explain why they can't issue the visa in the first place and let somebody go to another country for 2 weeks. It's
ridiculous. And all they're doing is putting themselves behind the 8 ball. They're just delaying the inevitable. They're going to issue all these visas. So all they're doing is hurting people's lives. I thought that was it was a ridiculous.
Glad Michelle asked that.
Ridiculous answer. I mean, shame on you, Miss Stuff. That's a ridiculous answer. And by the way, we should be putting that in all our pleadings from now on. This delightful answer from Miss Stuffed about just go to a different country. Maybe, Jeff, we should add that to the Milligan stuff here. We're going to get the judge. Said, by the way, Judge, Miss Stuff says they can go to any country in the world and get these visas. Can you help us with that? I bet you their lawyer doesn't know she said that.
Well, I think we're also now that we're seeing, even after these DV changes, that the government is still taking this position with respect to the other bans, that we are going to have we're going to have communications with the judges in both Anunciato and Aker to explain that the government is still taking this illegal position regarding banning visa issuance and keeping people from actually being able to enter, even if they're willing to comply with the 14 days. That's something that I just don't think that they have a good defense for that in either court.
They don't. Although that is their appeal in Milligan, is on that issue, and I'm shocked by that. Do they really want a Court of Appeals decision on that issue? I think they would be content for an unpublished
presidential power. That's what I guess so. It's about right now. It's no longer about Trump. It's about preserving presidential power for whoever happens to be in.
I think that's right. Yeah.
All right. So we've got that. We've got the Anunciato case. Our handsomest member, Aaron, is not with us this evening. He's having to drive home. But we filed today our response. We took the weekend to get unangry, although he was able to use the word reek in his response, and basically say, look, the government wants you, judge, to dismiss the case because they got 4 continuances to not answer the amended complaint, and now they say it's too late, which is just garbage. I cannot believe the judge would buy this. But we were also able to say, Judge, we need to talk to you about this case, about the plaintiffs, about the application, about what's going on, because this is wildly improper. So at this point, everything's back in Judge Seaborg's hands once again, and we're patiently waiting. We can't do anything more. I can't guess as to timing, but hopefully this will be relatively quick. But I said that 5 weeks ago, and we still don't have anything. On Tate, that's our O-1 case. We have all the plaintiffs are in the process. The government is trying to get interviews for most people. There's a couple of stragglers still that we're working on with the government, but fully convinced that we will be able to get those appointments here shortly. Let's see. We have a couple other cases, Greg, that we just announced. Do you want to talk about the EB-5 case?
Yeah, so we have two cases. One will sound familiar, one will sound a little less familiar. One is involving, but they both deal with consular issues. We are looking to sue on EB-5 immigrant visa processing delays at consulates abroad. This is not on EB-5 526 filings, which that's another suit probably on there. Those are abysmally slow. But this is for people who've actually gotten an I-526 approved, have a visa currently available to them, and the consulates are just not moving, despite the fact that the EB-5 has been outside of the ban all along, and they have just not been moving those cases. So in a second, Chuck, I'll send you the link for people for onboarding for that case. The other one we are doing is a small group of plaintiffs that are filing in Egypt on K1 delays there, and it's just specific to that particular consulate. And we're typically filing these cases as individual cases, as we've discussed. But in this case, there's a group that wanted to pool their resources together. So we decided to do that one together, and the issues are a little bit narrower because it's one consulate. So we're doing that one as well. And Chuck, I'll give you the links in a second, then you can post.
Right. I would say, Greg, someone just reached out to me and said, we've got 20 conditional resident immediate relative cases that are also not interviewing. And I said, well, we'll get back to you. But Cairo is one of the special problems. Cairo was a problem during the DV stuff, and it's a problem now. So that's kind of where we are on updating on all these cases. Let's see if we have any questions here that require any answering. Let's see here. Here's James. Round 3 plaintiff is trying to serve, but she's from Zimbabwe. Oh, I would try. Well, here's what I would do. I would take this statement from the consulate, from the Secretary of State in charge of consulates, Sven, and I'm putting it down here, the link. So look in the comments section, and you can see that link. It just say consulate. You're supposed to consider my visa according to the Assistant Secretary of State. So
one concern I have with that, though, is that Johannesburg is a proclamation country. So if you stay in South Africa, you are subject to the judge's order. And the judge's order says that Johannesburg has to process visas. If you move to Zimbabwe, you are not subject to the judge's order, and you're subject to whatever processing times Zimbabwe has. So I don't think it's as easy of a decision as, should I move from one consulate to the other? This is, to be honest with you, where we really can't give you advice. Like, this is without us getting in the weeds and actually looking it up and finding out what the processing times are and communicating with the consular officers. That's way, way beyond the scope of what we can do. And so you either need to contact your lawyer about whether that's a good idea or make an appointment with one of us for a separate consultation.
There you go.
Sorry about that. Chuck, I just texted you on the private chat the links for both of those pages.
Oh, perfect. I will get that up here real quick. This is the link here for. Actually, I'm going to put it in the comments, Greg, so it's available to folks.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Having to contact that. And so there's the first one, and I'll put the second one up here in the comments. So the next question here is about Jeff. What is our plan of action on dealing with Manila? So, I mean, this is obviously a constraining situation, very frustrating when you see other people, more than half of the people getting their visas, and because somebody happens to be from what is probably the worst consulate in the world, they're getting jerked around.
Yeah, so let me start by saying, number one, Manila has been good with round one plaintiffs, as I indicated earlier in the call.
But that was not immediate then.
No, it took some time. Round two, and I will say in general, the Department of State has changed their messaging in round two. Now the messaging is, if you're not, even if you're in one of the named plaintiffs, we don't have to process your cases ahead of other people's, right? That's the position that they're taking. And so Manila in some ways has changed their messaging now, saying, yes, we recognize you're a named plaintiff, but we don't have to give you priority over people who are already in line ahead of you. And that's new messaging. The problem is we obviously we have no access to that line. We don't know whether a line even exists or where you are in that line to confirm it or not. So all I can tell you about Manila is our plan of attack is to do the same thing we have been all along. And that's all that we have the power to do. And that is every time we have an opportunity to take your case to the judge and provide the statistics, or in between those opportunities to take it to the U.S. attorney, that's what we're doing. And so far it's worked. It takes time, but it's worked so far.
Here's kind of a follow-up to that question, and it's really it's not about hope. Everybody wants their visas done now. All right. I don't know where Kinu Mayako's case is. It's in one of those countries you listed. But by listing it out for the judge to see, and the court ultimately saying to the government, so what's the deal with these places? I mean, why? Can you explain to me that? And the government lawyer doesn't want to be in a position to say, well, Judge, in Manila, they just don't like K1s. Or, in Cairo, they don't like XYZ. This is something that's really rather unique in this particular litigation. So I'm going to tell, as far as I'm concerned, have hope. You're going to get this faster through this process. It's just nothing is immediate going this way.
There was a question that I wanted that was brought up before that I wanted, which was in hold on a second, let me get to it. For people who have expiring K1, I-129F notices, yeah. This is John Shields' question. Yeah. Oh yeah, you just put it up there on there. So this is actually becoming a more common problem for people the longer these waits go on there. And generally speaking, they're ignoring that and they're processing folks. That's been typically what's happened for people that have hit expirations for round one and round two to date, correct?
Yes.
Has there been anybody that hasn't been able to get past that issue?
Not that I'm aware of, but I do think it's something that we should probably raise with Joe.
There's a FAM note, by the way, that allows them to extend these. It says 30 days, but the reality is the FAM note gives them discretion to continue extending it.
I think we should maybe also have a conversation about them posting something on travel.state.gov like they've done for other, USCIS has done it for where there's expirations that are really the government's fault more than anybody else's, that they should have an automatic 1-year extension.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that there was raised in the chat box that I think is something we have thought about. We don't want the judge to order this necessarily, because we don't want the judge to be restrained to one particular type of relief. But I do think it would be worth asking Joe, given the Department of State's sort of come around on DV 2020, where they granted NIE exceptions to all of those DV 2020s, to perhaps consider doing that for people who were issued K1 visas and just just need them reissued to get a blanket NIE exception. That's something we could potentially ask Joe to see if they'd be willing to do.
All right. So we've got the next question on London. why is London just like got these? They have done some London folks. We know that for round 2.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's something going on in the UK. It's a little unclear.
I don't know. I mean, the only thing that I can think of is that it has to do with the strain that they found, that they're taking extra precautions in London because of the virus strain. That's the only thing I can connect, but I honestly don't know, because in round 1 they were very, very good.
Yeah, it's.
Well, hang on a second. They were good after they were not good for a while.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We had a lot of complaints about London at the very beginning from people. It's like, what are you going to do about London? What are you going to do about London? And then all of a sudden, London was like a model consulate and moving things really quickly.
That's right.
That's kind of a running theme here. The only one that's been consistently bad is Manila. Even though Manila eventually got through round 1, they have not been. And also Brazil is another one that was really horrible. But London has been up and down.
All right. So the next thing, I want to apologize. When I put it on Twitter that we were on Facebook, actually, I screwed up the sign up on how we do this, and it's actually on my YouTube channel. So I just tweeted that out. So I do apologize. And we did go through the entire update. We don't have to update it again.
I was wondering why there weren't as many questions as usual.
It's my problem. It's my screw up. I apologize. But I do want to address this, Jeff. Again, just a quick update. What's happening on March 4th? Just tell folks that joined us a little bit late.
Just the only thing that's happening on March 4th is we have to submit a joint status report, meaning the government and us together have to submit a status report to the judge about what's happening on the case, what's happening at individual consulates. And so what I reported to you at the beginning, the statistics, were statistics that are embedded in our status report.
All right. This is a good question about why don't you just ask the judge to grant NIEs?
Mm-hmm. Because if we do that, so, if you tell the judge, this is the way we want you to rule, and this is how we want you to instruct the Department of State to do something, and you put the Department of State in a shoebox like that, and they don't like it, then they're going to appeal it. And so we would prefer the judge to just give an order like the order he gave, which is start processing K-1s. I don't really care how you do it, just do it, right? Because then Department of State can do it however they want to. Now, they chose to take a very narrow interpretation of that. They chose to say, okay, it's only for named plaintiffs. And, you can frame that however you want to. Some of you may say that's really, really bad, that it's only for named plaintiffs. On the other hand, we were able to go back to the judge and say, look, judge, he's only applying this to named plaintiffs. The government's only taking this to named plaintiffs. We want to add more plaintiffs. So, we don't want to restrain the judge in any particular way to say, this is what we think you should do, because it means Department of State is also restrained, and they're not going to want that. They're not going to want that. They're more likely to appeal and fight us.
There's a question as well about why it's taking so long to add the plaintiffs around round 3. And I just kind of had to chuckle at that because, we filed this like a week and a half ago on there. It's ask the round 2 plaintiffs about waiting on there. It's really up to the, you don't know how long it's going to take. And I told people it will be a few days to a few weeks. That's what we said from the beginning. And we're probably right in the middle.
But in the status report that we submitted on the 4th, we did say that we have submitted another motion to you, Judge, to add another 402 plaintiffs. The government has not taken a position on that motion. That motion remains pending with you today.
Okay, so here we got that. And again, sorry we missed you earlier, B Stone, but the appeal, just again in Milligan, is what the government appealed before, which is why do they have to give visas to people if there's a 212F bar? It seems ridiculous to me that they would appeal that, but we just entered our appearance in that. That's all it's been.
It's pretty risky for them. I mean, at this point,
I think it's huge. I think it's a huge.
They keep losing. I mean, have they had a win on that in any case?
What happened in the Gomez case? They got
got hammered on that issue. Hammered on that issue.
Yeah. By the DC Circuit, or did they punt on that?
No, the DC Circuit punt. They sent it back to Judge Mehta. So no, they don't want to deal with this issue. Nobody wants 212F is radioactive. Nobody wants to have to After Trump versus Hawaii, nobody wants to touch this.
Mhm.
Now, my mom is talking about DV 2021 here, which I think is important to note. That's the Anunciato case, which is still going on. No consulate has issued any DV 2021 visa yet, to my knowledge. None in the whole wide world. So it's been that, and actually that was part of one of the things we mentioned in our update to the judge, is that they spent a week and done nothing. So they're just burning daylight here, which is, again, goes to the issue of why you need to make sure that all the visas are used for the year so that everybody gets a chance to use those visas, especially the plaintiffs. All right. Let's see. We dealt with that one. Oh, the medical exam question in Milligan. All right, Jeff?
You do have to do the medical exam again. They're not excusing those from what we understand. What do you suggest when to book it again when you're plaintiffs? Not until you get scheduled for the interview. So once you get scheduled for the interview, it would be a matter of contacting the consulate, asking them if you need to retake the medical exam. If you do have to retake the medical exam, one suggestion is to go back to the examiner that you went to the previous time and see if they'll just re-sign the previous exam without charging you to redo a whole new exam. But most of the plaintiffs that we've spoken to did have to take a second exam. Yes.
What about the situation related to that when you schedule it, when you have a medical exam, and then they postpone the interview on you, and then the exam expires because of that? Are you aware that they're giving any kind of any dispensation or whatever to people in that situation?
I'm not aware, Greg, but I do recall hearing something about it, so let me look it up while we're on the call.
Okay.
All right. The next thing here, somebody contacted Bucharest and they said, we're only working on a few immigration visas. Yeah, that's literally what they're doing. Unless they're ordered to it by a judge, that's all they're doing. Again, the only government agency in America or the world who has not found a workaround for COVID. Why? It's what you ask why. Why are they doing that? Let's see. What is your plan for non-proclamation countries? Do you have a sort of a timeline for us on your end when you think everything's done, we should have a case? I'm going to let Jeff handle this because he's so adept at answering questions like that.
Our plan is the same for non-proclamation countries as proclamation countries. The non-proclamation countries, we're pointing out on a weekly basis. If you're properly filling out the status report to Greg, every week is all we really need, where you go in and fill out the status report and you say whether there's been movement on your case. Any cases where there's been no movement are the cases that we're reporting to the U.S. attorney on a weekly basis. And then, after this status report on the 4th, I assume that the judge is going to order another status conference, and we will have to do another status report after that. So the plan, and the only plan that we have, really, the only plan that we have is what we're doing right now, which is suing, winning as far as the proclamation countries, and reporting as far as the non-proclamation countries, which is what the judge has ordered us to do.
Okay. Will Judge Mehta approve the 35,000 visas? This actually came up today. And it came out of Judge Mehta's mouth as he was talking about settlement. I said, well, I know there's some issues. Maybe the government, maybe the plaintiffs may move for me to issue more visas than 9,000. And I immediately said, Judge, 1 second. We did exactly that in our motion for summary judgment. He said, oh, okay. I haven't read those yet. Yeah, then why should you spend time reading on something when the government hasn't replied? So, we think we have a good case for this. So that's why we move forward on that. All right. Do you have any? What was the numbers in Frankfurt? There was hardly any Frankfurt numbers left, Jeff. I mean, this is my fault. We're talking about this again because I didn't put the right link up to join us. Jeff, you're muted for some reason.
For round 1, there's no one left from Frankfurt at all.
Okay.
From round 2, there's 11 people in Frankfurt.
Okay. And Frankfurt in round 1 was super helpful.
Yeah, so they're usually a pretty good consulate.
But I actually had another client of mine that went in for something else in Frankfurt, and they said they were grumpy. So, I mean, I don't know. All right, let's see.
Greg, to answer your question, in July 2020, Department of State says that they'll grant an automatic extension of 1 month for a medical exam. Anything more than medical exam requires a new full validity medical exam and visa.
Okay. On Anunciato, we don't have a status conference. We have asked for a status conference. He hasn't given us a status conference yet. I don't see the status conference as having any effect on the PI, except that the PI is partially mooted because of
PI is preliminary injunction.
Yeah. So there we go. No, Kino, I know we're not. It's okay. Trust me, we're lawyers. We can take it. We're okay. All right. Yasmin, I'm sorry. Go back to the beginning. It was the first thing we updated. Yeah. That's part of it. This will all be posted on it's all online. You get to watch this wherever. Let's see. Just picking stuff that aren't duplicate questions. Let's see. Show the position remains valid. Yeah, I was wondering why we had so few people. Now I know why. All right, the embassy of Stockholm, presumably in Sweden, have this on their site. It's valid and can be revalidated anytime. Oh, well, there you go. I think that's true. That's clearly within the power of the Department of State.
They've at least informed people of that.
Yeah,
I know that it's not a major barrier, but it should be clarified at the beginning. And I'm not even really sure why they even have that expiration.
I will ask Joe to put that on the Department of State website. I think that's important enough that it should be universal guidance.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay. Let's see what we got here. A lot of people answering each other in the YouTube comments here. Martin, we actually started at 6. It's our bad. So it'll be all recorded and you can watch all the Milligan update we put on here. Because that was at 6. That was only 5 minutes ago. He posted that. All right. There is Greg, is there any more Milligan rounds?
No,
we're not adding anybody else to Milligan.
No, I mean, Jeff, you might want to mention something about what we're asking for as far as the clarification from the judge, which will hopefully broadly help at least proclamation country folks. And then we're looking at doing individual cases and consulate specific cases at this point, because we just don't think the judge is going to be that. We think it's the best move not to try for a 4th round. We probably pushed our luck a bit.
I agree with that. I think, first of all, we want to deal with round 3 plaintiffs first, make sure that they get added and that they're all taken care of, which I don't think will be a problem, especially because the judge has granted it already. But once that motion is granted, then our intent is to file a motion to amend the preliminary injunction order to add South Africa officially, to get the judge to order South Africa, but also to clarify that when the judge said this proclamation is unlawful, did you mean it's only unlawful if you filed a lawsuit, or it's unlawful universally? And we think the answer to that question has to be it's unlawful, it's unlawful. A rose is a rose is a rose. So if that happens and the judge says, yes, it's unlawful across the board, then you all don't have to join another lawsuit. You're included at that point. And the Department of State will have to change their guidance on their website and say consulates have to adjudicate K1s.
The plaintiffs would still be prioritized, but I'm anticipating that question as far as
named plaintiffs we're going to get to the beginning because the government is having to report to the court on those. So they are going to get priority. That is true.
I love people's YouTube names. This is Gru, who's saying, why are you saying you've only got 6 months to enter the U.S.? Even our issued visas say upon endorsement serves as temporary residence for 1 year. You may be missing the first 2 words of that quotation, which are upon endorsement, which you can only get at a U.S. port of entry. So basically, and once you leave the country, if you're gone longer than 6 months as a green card holder, they can presume that you have abandoned your residence in the United States and take your green card away.
Trust Chuck on this. This is not a gray area.
But this is a good example of why immigration law is so effed up, really, is because this would be a very reasonable interpretation for somebody who's not a lawyer to be like, yeah, it's good for a year, and then to be totally screwed. So this is why we do what we do, is things like this,
Now, Cathal says about Dublin, they're allowing interviews but not issuing the visas. But haven't we had people had visas issued there?
Not a lot. We did. I think we've only had 2 plaintiffs from Dublin, but they did in round 1. They were issued.
Yeah. So again, this is that changing, crazy stuff that they got going on. All right, Fadi, we talked about Cairo earlier. Scroll back up in the comments, and you'll see the link on the lawsuit. Okay.
We're filing a separate lawsuit for Cairo. And by the way, when Greg said that, you have other options, when you're from a proclamation country, being in this lawsuit is a good idea. When you're from a non-proclamation country, your options are get together with other people from your country to spread out costs and then file an individual or a group mandamus from that against that consulate, or to file an individual mandamus so that your case gets individualized particular attention. And what you do is really a question of resources. If you have the money to file an individual mandamus, you should do that because it's an individual case with your individual attention by a judge.
All right, this one. Do you have any news on Presidential Proclamation 152? Yes, it's still in place, and Biden hadn't gotten rid of it. And I think it's because the CDC is telling him not to.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I did tell somebody earlier today who said, look, I've called this person and that person. Probably the person you need to call is Ron Klain, chief of staff of President Joe Biden. He has a very public Twitter page. You should DM him and ask him about that. Again, Cesar, no consulates doing any DV 2021 visas yet. There's been no instruction to them to do it. Nothing. KCC, as far as I know, is not moving on this. I would strongly encourage you to follow Britt Simon Says, subscribe to Britt Simon Says here on YouTube, because he's got the most up-to-date information on that. And Gru, you only have to ask once. We'll get to you. All right. What about those who haven't been able to reach with their interview? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. I don't know what that means. I just don't know.
You don't have to put the questions up if you don't understand what the question means.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I know, but I just wanted that person to know. I saw their question, but I don't know what it means. Martin, I'm having serious surgery. I'm sorry, Martin. Hopefully it's positive good surgery. Now at ESTA, okay, this is where, Martin, you have got to talk to your own lawyer. Because there are options for you. I will tell you generally, there is no bar to a K-1 fiance who's waiting on a visa to enter on the ESTA program. They may be questioned at the port of entry, again, by the friendly guys in the black uniforms and guns, but they should be prepared. No, I'm going back. My fiance had surgery. But
there's a section, Chuck, in the Foreign Affairs Manual that specifically says K-1s can enter as a visitor while a K-1 application is pending. It's specifically there, so your lawyer should be able to give you a letter or arm you with that information, but that is perfectly legal.
Yes. Okay. This is Candace wanting us to predict. Candace, I'm not getting your hopes up. Jeff, are you prepared to get Candace's hopes up that all the round 3 people will be interviewed in April?
Round 3 have been all scheduled for March. Except round 3. No, that's not going to happen. It's definitely not going to happen. Here's what I will tell you. The plaintiffs, we filed this case originally in October. The round 1 plaintiffs, there are still 8 left, and it's February. Okay, so and that was with a lawsuit.
Anymore.
Yeah, so it took that long for round 1. Round 2, there's still, I don't know how many left. So, it's not like this happens overnight. Even filing a lawsuit, it's still going to take time for you to get here.
Now, there's a good question here about Nancy. Can she listen to the status conference on Thursday?
Yes.
There's no status conference.
It's just a status report.
Report. Okay.
Oh, it's a report. And yeah, but in general, status conferences, everything that we have with the judge is public.
Yeah, so we generally put it out there right away for that. I don't know what this means. Is this a new acronym? When we get 2 NLs from KCC, is that like hit by pitch? Is that the infield fly rule? I don't really know what that
means.
Yeah, either do I. But I put it up because it annoys Greg when I put stuff like that up.
I know that it's kind of funny, but there's terminology that kind of like within the beneficiary community that they use that is not really, you never really hear lawyers actually referring
Right, exactly.
NOA2. It's like, no, we just call it the I-129F.
I actually had to Google NOA2 to figure out what that was.
Yeah.
Because we call it a 797.
Yeah.
Or an approval notice.
Yeah.
It's Judge Seaborg has no deadline, Roman. He's a judge. Judges can take as long as they want. Welcome to America. You're getting your test in the judicial system. When is a good time for a police certificate for round 3? Well, how long does it take for you to get a police certificate? In some countries, you can get them in an hour. Others, it may take months. I mean, if yours is expiring in the next week, you should get a new one, unless it costs you a fortune to get it. Again, great question for your individual lawyer about this case. Okay. Oh yeah, Hussein, our friend from Florida, Florida.
Oh, you changed the picture for YouTube.
Is that a pipe thing? I don't know what he's got going on there, but looks like maybe a police officer with a little thing going on there.
No, it's a seatbelt.
It's a seatbelt. Oh, okay, it's only a seatbelt.
He's being a safe driver.
Safe driver. That's good. So yeah, KCC. Again, this is why we've got to get in front of Judge Anunciato. They're just literally doing nothing, and the KCC works from home. They work from home. I mean, everything they do is electronic. There's no reason they're not just churning out cases to get them ready. It's just not. Let's see. Yeah, they canceled, like Jeff, you may realize, they canceled a bunch of appointments in March in London and moved them out, and we don't know why, and we don't have an answer from the government yet.
The only thing I can think of is what I said before. It may have to do with this new strain of virus that they discovered in the UK and South Africa, but that's the only thing I think of.
I think that's it.
5 times though. That's
the Jays. Jays are still barred under 152. It is what it is. I mean, short of suing them on that is what you have to do. But J1s are typically students or trainees and stuff. So
trainees are they're covered, but not the. Well, hang on a second. Is J1 trainee?
I don't think they were barred, but they're not.
They're not covered by it. I think it's just that's not one of. There's like 14 different J categories, and I don't think that's one of the covered ones.
The employer, your employer, your trainor, they should be calling the Chamber of Commerce. They should be calling the White House. That's where the juice is on getting that fixed.
Yeah, any employer that's not a government employer can join the Chamber of Commerce. And that is the way to solve that problem.
Yep. Now you all know what a 2NL is.
Second weather.
I never would have guessed that in a million years.
So this whole KCC thing that's happening, is this an issue where we're going to have to? I mean, I don't think this has come up with.
It has. It has come up frequently. KCC basically has not done any 2021 work for the most part. They accepted a bunch of cases in November, and they just basically stopped accepting cases.
Are they a part of Department of State, correct?
Yes, they're the National Visa Center for the folks doing DV. Okay, they're also, those of you who don't know this, they're the place where immigration, USCIS, sends electronic copies of H-1B petitions, L petitions, immigrant visas for scanning and uploading into the Department of State database so that consulates have access to your file at USCIS, because heaven forbid they should all use the same damn system. They should employ 500 people doing work for no reason whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Benjamin, if you have an ESTA, if I recall this correctly, and I could be wrong, you can get on a plane and come as a visitor. Visitors aren't banned, as I recall, and I could be wrong about that. Maybe
yes, they're banned. They are banned for if you've been in the UK.
Okay.
On there, you still have to go 14 days somewhere else, but you're not. ESTA benefit. I mean, ESTA is better. They're better situated than K1s and all the other categories because they don't have to get a visa. They can just go 14 days somewhere else. So,
but you can go on your ESTA to Mexico, stay in Mexico for 14 days, and then through your US on ESTA. That will work.
What does it mean that the government hasn't taken a position on round 3 plaintiffs, Jeff?
So the government can do 3 things. They can say we join the motion, they can say we oppose the motion, or they can say we don't take a position. So not taking a position means like we neither support it nor are opposed it. We're just.
By the way, they opposed round 2.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're not taking a position here, hopefully means it's going to be a non-event.
That's kind of like when you go to court in the United States, you can plead guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere, which basically means, yeah, you're probably going to find me guilty, but I'm not going to admit it. You can sentence me. I mean, that's what this is like. Yeah, you're probably going to lose. So I'm not going to wait.
And the judges already ruled against them, so it would if I were in their shoes, I would never say I oppose when the judges already ruled that way. But also, they represent a plaintiff. They represent a client too. So, their client doesn't want them to support it. So they just say, we just won't take a position.
Now, Amsterdam, we updated earlier, Jeff. And in fact, it's one of the few places where there's been no round 2 plaintiffs done.
Yeah, no round 2 plaintiffs. And that's right. There's a lot of them. There's five from Amsterdam with absolutely no movement.
Yes.
So.
Okay.
And Athens is the other one where no movement whatsoever.
This is interesting. This is a round 3 plaintiff who was interviewed in June 2019. This is a little crazy. I would have to look at that individual case before I could really answer that.
Yeah, Azita, I'm guessing probably if it was that early, that's pre-COVID.
Yeah.
That's probably administrative processing.
Yeah, I would think so. Ramon, really, how many times we have to answer this? You're our clients. We got your back. All right. Let's see. Last couple of questions here. Here's a follow-up. Is the Netherlands embassy processing those, or are they a difficult embassy?
Round 1, they were not a difficult embassy. They did process without problems. I don't know why they've become more difficult in round 2, to be honest with you. Or I don't have an answer.
Can you make your itinerary? Yeah, if you want to come to the U.S. on ESTA, you book a flight to Mexico, you wait 14 days, come to America, and fly directly home. That's perfectly fine. Round 3 is closed, and there is no round 4. Which Jeff explained earlier, and I would refer you to his comments from about 10 minutes ago. Diogo, we also updated the DV 2021 visa holders. Your visa is good for 6 months from last week when Biden issued the order. All right, that's it for today. I think everything else has been answered here. Monseigneur, yes, Paris is difficult, but not impossible. We've had folks approved there. We will, absent any other crazy stuff this week, we'll be back next Monday night. And hopefully by then we'll be on our own YouTube channel, ImmPact Litigation, where we're beginning to post all these videos. And you'll be able to look at us right there, and that'll be the permanent home for this broadcast. Hope everybody else has a great week. Will Biden lift any more bans? I don't know. Will he put any more bans in place? I don't know.
Usually on Friday afternoons is when that happens.
5:30 Eastern time.
Right.
That's the dead zone for news. So that's when the stuff we don't like. All right, everybody, have a great week. Talk to you later.